Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala ashraf al-anbiya wa khatim al-nabiyyin nabiyana Muhammad wa ala alih wa ashabih wa man tabi'ahum bil ihsan ila yawm al-din. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your brother Abu Abdullah Abdul-Lateef from Arabic Virtual Academy as well as Abdul-Lateef.com. Today I want to discuss an issue. And this is, how do we deal with proofs and evidences that, seemingly contradict one another? Because this seems to be a huge problem and causing all types of catastrophes in our communities. Because everyone keeps saying we need to stick to the Quran and the Sunnah and not explaining how we go about doing this. From time to time, we're going to find authentic proofs and evidences that seemingly contradict one another. Seemingly they contradict one another. First thing I want to point out here, because it's very important that we understand, is that we're not going to find authentic narrations that contradict one another. Do you understand that? We're not going to find that we have sahih proofs and evidences that this one completely negates the other one. This happens in our minds. And what do I mean when I say that? Because of our lack of understanding, a lot of times, whether it's because we don't have other proofs to go and get an explanation from, we don't know how to work with the proofs and evidence. There's lots of reasons. So we end up saying, okay, this particular proof, it negates that other one. Or we're not going to work by that other one. We have to understand we have an obligation when we talk about authentic proofs and evidences. There are two things that are obligatory on you. Or I can say one of two things, maybe. If what's in that proof or that evidence is something that you are supposed to believe, then it's obligatory on you to believe that thing. And if it's something that you are told to do, then it's obligatory that you act on it. That you don't just leave it off is what I mean. Because as you know, there are some things that are just recommended and things along these sorts. But it's not just abandoned. Why? Because these are authentic proofs and evidences. We work with that which is authentic. Okay? So the asl isn't that we say, okay, well listen, I'm going with this one instead of that one. I'm going to throw this one out. That's the first things that we have to get in our head. That's the first issue we have to understand. Is it's not about, okay, I'm going to throw one of these out. I'm going to go with this and this one's just going to get abandoned. Why do I say this? Because this is not the way of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You're going to find when we have issues of this situation called it ta'awud, where they oppose these two proofs and evidences or more, oppose one another to the point of it looks to us like they're negating one another. Right? What we do here is not to say, okay, we're going to work with this one and throw this one out. The scholars of Ahl Sunnah, they have different ways in which they deal with this situation. And, I've explained this for those of you who have taken the Usul al-Fiqh classes with us. But just to summarize, there's one way in which we find that the Jamhur, or the majority of the scholars, they use to get rid of this. The first of these options, or the first thing that we do, is what they call a gem, which means we work with both of these proofs and evidences. We combine them, we work with both of them. How does this happen? Because we know sometimes there's a narration that says this and a narration that says this. I mean, there's lots of them. But this is talking about in this situation, and this is talking about in this situation. Like there were certain things that during the Meccan period, the ruling was this, when the Muslims were weak. And there were other things in times when in the Medinan periods when the Muslims had strength. So in times of weakness, we work with this. And in times when the Muslims are in situations where the Muslims are strong, we work with this. This is how we have this gem. We have both opinions, or we have both proofs, we have both positions, and we work with both of them when the situation arises. This is the first way. It's not, okay, well, we're going to only do this one, we're going to only do this one, and the other one's just going to get thrown away. How is this sticking to the authentic proofs and evidences? And this is the first stop that we get off, I guess I should say, on the train ride. No, we find a way to work with both of them. If that doesn't work, then generally we do what's called making a Tarjih, and saying that this one is Rajih, or it's the best one to go with out of the two opinions. And this can be for a lot of reasons. Like, for instance, there's one proof that's general and another one that is specific. And I know I'm using a lot of terms, but I'm really not trying to make this an Usul al-Fiqh class. Those of you who have done the Usul al-Fiqh class, you know what I'm talking about. Those of you who aren't, I'm trying to keep it simple enough in which you will. And if you'd like to know more, you can always take the class, inshallah ta'ala. But we have proofs that are general and other proofs that are specific. So this is just a general ruling, and we take and we say, okay, well, listen, for this group or this thing, that hukum doesn't apply, that ruling doesn't apply. You understand? So we say, okay, well, listen, in this situation, for this group right here, you understand? This is the Rajah. This is the one we're going to go with for this situation. Why? Because this is the special hukum or the special ruling that was given for this particular situation, rather than just go with the general opinion. You understand? Kind of like, oh, no, I don't want to get into giving examples because it's going to take a lot of extra explanation. But the first thing we do is make this gem. We put the adillah together. Then we say, okay, well, this one is stronger for this particular situation for such and such reason. This explains what came in this other proof. You understand? It's not that it goes against it. It's explaining or giving an exception to that rule in certain situations. Things along these sorts. Then we have what is called a Naskh. Then if they don't find that they can use the Jam or the Tarjih, then they look and they say, okay, well, listen, we look at the dates and the times in which this was narrated or revealed and this was narrated or revealed. And we say, okay, well, look, this is still worked with because the old ruling still stands in that old situation. It's not that it wiped it away as though it doesn't exist. It still stands in that old situation. But now we work with this new rule. So it abrogated it. It came and it changed it. We're still not throwing it away as though it never existed or it is batil. Things along these sorts. It's just we don't work by this anymore because something came to change it. So those are 3 steps. We have al-jam', we have a tarjih, and we have a naskh. Then if none of that works out, this is where they take the position of a sukut, where they just take and they go with one proof over another. This is where they make their ijtihad. You understand? This is the last step. This is the last stop on the train. But if you look, a lot of times what we're taught, what we're shown, what's given to us is, listen, you go with this one and we leave this one off. This one right here is the one we go and we don't act on this one over here. Because why? It goes against this one and this evidence is stronger. All you have to do to see that what I'm telling you right now is the truth, look at the way of our scholars. Our scholars aren't doing what you see that we're being told if this is what we're being told. It's not that simple. If things were that simple, why would we need scholars to go through, spend their whole lives, 15 years, 20 years, 50 years, 75 years, 80 years studying? If it was really simple enough for someone that never studied Islamic sciences to go ahead and, I guess just figure it out. You know, what would be the purpose of the scholars giving up all that time and us needing to go back to them if it was that easy? So you have to remember that there's a way in which we deal with these evidences that seemingly go against one another. It's not automatically we just take this one and throw this one out. As I just showed you with the jamhur, the majority of the ulama, that's the last stop on the train. There are a number of stops before that, to where these other proofs and evidence are given their rights as authentic proofs and evidences. They're not thrown out and disregarded. And doing that at the last stop or the last step is because we have no other option. So don't be so quick to think, okay, well, look, this one said this and this one said this. I'm going to go with this one. I'm not going to deal with that particular proof. But we don't work with that because this is stronger. That's not, one, our position or the role that we should be playing. And 2, it's not correct. This wasn't the way of our scholars, past or present. But rather, this is the way of the common average individuals and the younger individuals from the students of knowledge that are out here trying to make their way. But are you really going to follow their example or the example of people who are the inheritors of the prophets? Not just of our time, but for generations upon generations upon generations. May Allah Ta'ala guide us to that which is correct. Forgive us for our shortcomings and lead us to those things that are going to be pleasing to Him and enter us into His paradise. Yawm al-Qiyamah. Ameen, Ameen, Allahumma Ameen. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.